Boys, part 4. Part 4. We're gonna be doing the 4th story. I don't know which story is actually the 4th story, but I'm gonna do the blonde one in the background here, the one called Nocturne. That's gonna be the 4th one we're gonna do. I'm not sure if it's actually the 4th one. I say this every time. I don't know which order we're supposed to actually be going in, or if there is even an order we're supposed to go in, but this is the one we're doing next regardless. Let's go. Spaceship. Ooh, pixely. Alright, this has RPG Maker vibes. Let's go. Sophia was ready to burst into tears right here and now in the office. She'd spent half a day visiting constabularies to get to the investigator. Lower-ranking officers and clerks simply kept stonewalling her, passing the girl from one to another just to get rid of her. Who do they think they are, skimping on work duties? During this time, she even managed to visit the mortuary, where she asked if there was the body of a young girl who looked exactly like her. Okay, they're getting right into some juicy shit here. No wind up, just right into it. She waited for an answer with a sinking heart. She was afraid, not only of the possible need to examine the dead body, but also that Sonia could be among them. Whoever Sonia is, alright. The coroner pathologist vaguely explained that, although such a girl did not arrive, some bodies are depersonalized, so to speak. Meaning they got fucked up. He advised her to order a whole map at the infant house. Infant house? That's exactly what Sophia did via the comm. Order a copy of the map to her address. Is she a baby? Is she looking at dead babies? All while she kept wondering what depersonalization means. It means they got fucked up. And why she needed a mole map. Is it really possible to determine a person's identity that way? What? That would mean the body has no face. Because they got fucked up! This thought that made Sophia feel sick. And she hurried to drive the terrible guesses into a distant corner of her mind and again begin to inquire about meeting someone who could help her. Ooh, pixely. She got an audience with the investigator, and now he was looking sadly into her eyes. It was clear from his expression that he wasn't going to help her either. Try to understand, young lady. We don't have that much power. After the unification of the military police with the civilian police into a single force, we must deal primarily with more global affairs. In other words, we fucking got way too much to do. You know that the Decemberists blew up the monorail in the upper city again. We must find those terrorists and protect civilians from further threats. And your case? Well, there is no case yet. Your sister hasn't been missing for more than 2 days, and we don't have the authority to put her on the missing persons list yet. It's unclear if she's missing at all, even. Of course she is. I've explained everything to you. I wonder what Sophia looks like. Probably the blonde girl in the title screen. I'm gonna think of it. She used to call me every day, and yesterday there was no call. Something definitely happened to her. She's like a mother to me. She's taken care of me all of her life. Almost since the day our parents disappeared. She took care of me and loved me. And she always calls. Always. And if there's no call, then something serious and terrible stopped her from calling. Whew. Well, young lady, you shouldn't cry wolf without understanding the whole situation. For example, she could have run away to a resort with some young stud. She had a boyfriend, didn't she? Sorry. I mean, she has a boyfriend, right? The old investigator was embarrassed by his reservation. It was as if he'd already buried her, and he didn't want to get down to business. He was, he has Decemberists to deal with, you see. What about Sonia? You dare not speak ill of such a noble girl, especially one that's, unaccounted for, that you know nothing about. You're tactless, and Sophia finally bursts into tears. The investigator fussily took a monogrammed handkerchief out of his pocket and handed it to the girl. Oh, yes, here you go, old bean. Yes. When she waved it off, he rubbed his bald head with it. His blockhead. Sophia abruptly turned around and rushed out of the investigator's office. She thought she had heard a sigh of relief, and calls himself an officer of the law. Bro, I don't blame him, man. Nobody wants to deal with somebody hysterically crying. That's just no good, bro. She walked through the street of the upper town, wiping her tears with her own handkerchief. Why does everybody have a handkerchief? The fudge man, and was amazed that everything was so bright and colorful. No one cared about her grief. Yeah, that's how it goes, guys. You act mopey and people ignore you. Everyone was living happily and carefree. It didn't look like anyone really cared about the blown up monorail, as if the explosion really matters. They'll probably fix it by tomorrow. But Sophia was feeling real grief. Her twin sister, her best friend, and her only family had disappeared. How was it possible not to sympathize with her given situation? The girl absolutely did not understand. She ran out of ideas of what to do. If Sonia were here, she could have thought of something. She's really a clever girl. She is strong and adroit. She is... Woo! She was so busy wallowing in her grief that she didn't notice that she reached her home. She was standing in the middle of her rented room, crumpling a handkerchief in her fingers. The day's worries exhausted her so much that she fell asleep in her clothes and slept until evening. She woke up at the very hour Sonia usually called her. But there was no call. Sophia begged the comm to send a signal, but the soulless machine remained deaf to the poor girl's pleas. They're really laying it on thick. Sophia began to cry for the umpteenth time. She was so terribly lonely that she rushed to the wardrobe and took out Sonia's dress, pressed it to her face, and inhaled the almost faded pink scent of perfume. It's like some stalker shit. I shouldn't make fun, but it's like some stalker shit, dude. Sophia hurriedly took off her clothes and put on her sister's dress. Now she was touching what belonged to Sonia with her whole body. Sorry, I just find this so creepy. But this did not lessen the anguish. Such a pity, my dear sister, that you can't tell me what I should do now. But we are siblings, Sophia thought. We are so alike. Why can't I imagine what you would do in such a grave situation? At that moment, she realized that for a second she seemed to have become her sister. Felt her strength. Is she gonna go crazy? Resourcefulness, excitement, and... That's it. I can become Sonia. Just like this. I'll stay at the female student's dorm. I'll mingle with her friends. And I'll learn the details of her last days before she was... No, that's too much. I don't have to think about such bad things. I'm Sonia now. I'm a student living on Flower Street. I have many friends, and they will lead me to the right clues. She's going crazy, bro. Oh my god. Sophia rushed out of the house before her resolve weakened. After all, she was a quiet and modest girl, unlike her sister. She did not get along well with people, but that shouldn't stop her now. Now that she's her sister. She must find her. Bro, imagine you just don't call your sister for like 3 days because your cell service goes out. And you're like, oh fuck, I forgot to pay my bill. Shit, whatever. I'll just call my sister after I get paid this week. You just call her and she's like, I'm Sonia, what are you talking about? And you're like, oh god, what happened? She must find her sister by any means. Otherwise there would be no one and nothing left in her life. It was so much scarier than the frightening proximity of strangers. I felt that. The harlot returns. So what? Been out all day this time? Sophia was so dumbfounded by this reception that she froze on the threshold of Sonia's room. She gasped for air and did not know how to respond to this insolence. Sonia told her that she lives in the same room as the borderline Danica, but it's one thing to talk about it over the comm and another to see it in real life. Danica looked really strange, a boyish haircut, and almost men's clothes. Trousers, bloomers, hinted at Eastern culture, which somewhat excused such a choice. Otherwise, Sophia would have been even more amazed. A woman in men's trousers. Such nonsense. Imagine. Well, her and her rude behavior too. This is already completely out of hand. Imagine girls dressing as boys. Blasphemy. Burn her at the stake. What do you mean? That's all she could say. She instantly lost all her ardor and courage. How can she pretend to be her perky little sister now? I'm kidding, silly. Although who knows what you and your beloved Nicholas are doing on dark evenings. Ooh. It was said in such a frivolous tone, but Danica still stabbed her new, and, in her mind, her former, roommate in the soul. Sophia couldn't decide if there was a joke in there or not. Beloved Nicholas? What does she mean? Sonia really does have a boyfriend? Why didn't she tell her about him then? Sophia finally pulled herself together and tried to play the role of Sonia. So confusing. She dropped onto the bed and put her hands behind her head, as her sister used to. Isn't your bed enough for you? Get out of mine. Sophia jumped up and, blushing, froze in the middle of the room. What bad luck. She slipped up again. Being Sonia turned out to be so out of character that it seemed strange. After all, they had lived together all their lives. They knew each other's habits, but now Sophia couldn't guess whose bed she dropped into. Sonia would have definitely chosen a bed away from the window. The room has 2 windows and 1 bed. There's only one choice. What? Unless Danica must have checked in first. Well, now she'd have to smooth out this awkward impression that she made on the neighbor. Kinda weird. Are you okay? Well, too late. Sophia waved her hands, but immediately stopped herself. Don't overdo it. It's better to behave more naturally. I'm just tired. I spent the night at my sister's place. We chatted all night. It's been so long since we've seen each other. Since before courses started. Sophia really hadn't seen her sister for a long time. She wouldn't mind chatting with her all night. It made her feel so sad again that tears welled up in her eyes. She hastily turned away. But she had time to notice surprise on Danica's face. Seemed like she blew it again. Her acting skills failed completely. She should leave and wait until the sadness is just gone. I'll go see the others. Others? The rest of my friends. Who else? Or am I only friends with you? You're not friends with anyone, especially with me. I think you need to see your doctor, honey. Are they friends or not? They called each other silly and made jokes, and now they're like, whoa, bro, what the fuck? I'm not your friend, bitch. Get the fuck out of here. Bam! Just punched her in the face. Stop crying, too. Skank. Sonia's not friends with anyone? How is that possible? She's so lively and outgoing. It can't be. Poor Sonia. All by herself here. Sophia couldn't stand it and ended up crying. It turns out that she does not know her sister at all. The only person close to her. And she doesn't know how lonely Sonia is either. Danica's hand reached up to her shoulder. Her sister's roommate gently stroked Sophia, and even put her arm around her, touching her cheek with her forehead. The fuck? Are you friends or not? The fuck? Bro, I'm so confused, dude. Come on, what's gotten into you? You're so weird, vulnerable, and unhappy. All alone? Alone? Of course not. What about Nikki? And, I can be your friend too, if you don't mind. Of course I don't mind. What? You have no friends, especially not me, bitch. By the way, wanna be friends? Skank! And now they're kissing. Sophia, oh my god, dude. Sophia kissed Danica on the top of her boyish head, as if she was her little sister and not a girl she was seeing for the first time. It just happened by itself. Suddenly she felt better. The sadness subsided. Not that bad. Sonia just didn't figure out that her friends were next to her all along. She just needed to talk. However, Sophia wasn't very communicative, and she didn't like it. She grew up with the only person who was always there, Sonia, and she'd constantly avoided other people. She probably shouldn't have, but It always seemed to Sophia that she didn't need other people because Sonia made enough acquaintances for two, herself and her sister. It turned out that she was also lonely. How strange. Is it really possible to make such an error in judgment about a person? Very easily. Especially one so close to you, especially when they're close to you. Sophia tried to pull away from Danica, but she didn't let go of her embrace. Danica raised her face and looked into the eyes of the stunned girl. There was something to her. Are they gonna make out? Ugh. If Danica had been a man, Sophia would have decided that love and passion were in her eyes. Ugh. But she's a girl. Sophia felt awkward, and she stepped back again. This time, Danica didn't resist, and let go of the extremely embarrassed girl. She looked away and pretended to be looking for some kind of synopsis among the notes scattered on the table. Still, you should go to Nicholas, Sonia. He's probably still waiting for you. Some weird love triangle bullshit going on. Like, where am I going to find him? In the visiting room, of course. It's not like he can go to the women's dorm. Danica snorted. And Sophia blushed again. Ooh. Not so much from imagining a guy wandering into the ladies' rooms, but from a sudden thought that came to her mind. She suddenly realized that Danica was in love with Sonia. It made sense. How can you not love her? But it was so much more complicated here. She wanted physical intimacy, not just a spiritual connection. It was so unusual, and if she takes into account the fact that she, Sophia, was now playing the role of Sonia, then it means she's now responsible for the development of these relations. I like how it just keeps reminding us that she's not Sonia, and that she's just pretending to be. And it also keeps reassuring that we remember which is nice, because I would get very confused. What are you doing? Your boyfriend is waiting. Why are you so rude? Didn't we agree that we would be friends now? Yeah, of course, I'm sorry. Just for old time's sake. Things are not going well with us. Danica looked away in embarrassment, and Sophia thought that perhaps she knew the reason for the coldness coming from her roommate. Sonia couldn't accept the feelings that were coming her way. Or maybe she just didn't notice them. Poor Danica was jealous of Nicholas and tried to make them look bad, probably even unconsciously. By the way, she said that she was waiting. It seemed that Sonia and Nicholas usually met at this time. It's worth hurrying to the visiting room before he leaves. Apparently Danica doesn't know anything. She and Sonia didn't communicate much. But Sonia met with Nicholas often. That's why Sophia needs to meet him. Only more carefully this time. Oh, he needs to plan so many things in advance. But what should she tell him? Yeah, good fucking question. You don't want to fuck that one up. Oh, we're back to the spooky music. Something's gonna happen. Sophia was wondering how to act with the mysterious Nicholas, who was waiting in the corridor, when somebody grabbed her by the elbow and pulled her towards the exit. She didn't even have time to squeak. Hello, Cookie. Why don't we attend the banquet in the city center? I can't wait to introduce you to a couple of friends who don't believe in your existence. That must be Nick. He looks like a soy boy. So this, Sonia girl liked manly girls and girly dudes. What a weird... I want all of my people to be just around the same level. Why don't they believe you? Do you have a reputation as a liar? Nicholas, who else could it be? Burst out laughing. Sophia squinted at him. She liked him immediately. She hadn't expected this to be the case. She couldn't have imagined that she'd like the guy within the first second of their meeting. Well, yeah, he was young, handsome, strong, confident, and in a cadet uniform. Bro, he's checking all the marks, bro, like. But why was she so content with his rude treatment? Why was she so willing to go anywhere with him despite the fact that she's not doing it out of her own will? He didn't even ask her. Bro, this is just like furthering the whole, like, jerks, women like jerks theory. Get the stereotypes out of my video games. Stop it. I can't handle this. Because they don't believe me. They think that I made you up or embellished too much. Now they'll see you and realize that you really are a goddess. Ugh. Oof. Well, what flattery it was. But it had the desired effect. How do you fall for that, bro? Sophia had never experienced the pleasant feeling of having compliments lavished on her. Even if they're so straightforward and militant, or Maybe it was because of his delivery. Who knows? Sophia was glowing, and Nicholas noticed. He stopped for a moment to bend to her hand. Is he gonna kiss it? How gentlemanly. It's not necessary to switch back to such an official tone. Otherwise, it feels like I've done something wrong. I know that's not the case, although, if I left it to your feminine whims, you could invent a reason, and even believe it. But I refuse to accept it. Otherwise, it will become real. We don't live in the most pleasant reality as it is, and we can only populate it with our mental homunculi. What? Sophia missed a step. What are mental homunculi? She even asked out loud. What are mental homunculi? Oh, that. Artificial people. Little men created with the help of alchemy, and you could also artificially create a reason to be offended by me. This man literally just said women will find any reason to be pissed. Bro. Except, I won't let you do it. And don't get your hopes up. I'll be so perfect, and you'll be in love with me. Deal? The cadet stopped and looked into Sophia's eyes so seriously as if his tirade wasn't a joke at all. Girl, flustered, looked back just as seriously. Deal? What? What? No! You don't say deal to that! Bro. Bro, what are you doing? What is this chick doing, bro? Oh my god. This is why your sister probably died. This is why your sister probably died. I just want to throw that out there. Her mouth was getting dry. Felt that she had been at the altar and joined in matrimony with the first person she met. Still, he was so self-confident and charming that she didn't regret anything. It was so unusual, funny, and crazy that she even laughed and took Nicholas's hand in her own. She almost started skipping as they walked. He squeezed her palm in response. Something important must have happened in their relationship just now. Perhaps she has now confessed her love to him. Wait, what? She's not Sonia. What if it was Sophia who almost fell in love at first sight? And with who? The romantic partner of her own sister, whom she is looking for and is missing and probably dead? What if... when Sonia is found, what will she see? That her fiancé is being taken away from her? And by the person closest and dearest to her? Bro, you're... Jesus Christ. Sophia stopped abruptly and pulled her hand away. Why would you pretend to be your sister here and do all this? Why wouldn't you just go and tell them that you're the girl's sister and she's missing and like... Oh my god. It wouldn't make an interesting story if that's all she... Yeah, it would. It would. Sophia stopped abruptly and pulled her hand away. Nicholas looked at her in surprise, but refrained from questioning her, for which Sophia was grateful. Surely he had drawn some conclusions of his own. So be it. At least now she wouldn't have to think about her own reasons. What is she doing? Where are they going? Why are they going to a party when Sonia is missing? But it's not like she can refuse. She needs to stay focused and think about what questions to ask. Nicholas is the only thread leading to Sonia. He spent more time with her than anyone else, and according to Danica, Sonia only talked to him. She needs to strike up a conversation somehow. And how will I get to the city center? The Decemberists blew up the monorail, and now there's a traffic jam on the roads. Everything will be alright. I know a shortcut. Trust me, honey. Oh, what frivolous treatment. Honey. And why is she so pleased when he calls her that? I am offended and turned on at the same time. Sophia decided to keep quiet. If Sonia and Nicholas act that way, then it's okay. She's Sonia now. Okay. I trust you. The cadet nodded with satisfaction, quickened his pace, and moved towards the unfamiliar area. Sophia obediently followed him, tormented by the fact that it's not her that he likes, and also how the timing of this party seemed inappropriate. My sister's dead and they want to get crunk. The deeper the young people moved into the foreign quarters, the darker it got around them. Moreover, in the literal sense, darkness of the night befell the city. Nicholas, you're terrible. You have no right to lead me into a dangerous neighborhood. I agreed to a shortcut, not suicide. We are completely unguarded and wearing fancy clothes. Even the common rabble may take interest in us. And I'm not talking about And I'm not talking about running into the Decemberists. Didn't you say it yourself, honey? The monorail that got blown up by the Decemberists hasn't been restored yet. There is no other way. If we perish in this ill-fated slum, we won't be able to attend the party at all. Nicholas just snorted and headed into the narrow alley. Time for a drug party. There was an indistinct noise in the darkness. Sophia put her hands over her mouth to stifle a cry. You never know who is hiding in the dark, and it would be a very thoughtless act of frivolity. I'm not sure how to say that word. To doubt their evil intentions. Oh, how useful Nicholas's service blaster would be about now. But they were on their way to a social event, and according to etiquette, the cadet officer was only entitled to a ceremonial dirk. Oh, gods. They're going to be shot and robbed in a dirty alley of a slum because of stupid rules of etiquette. What is that buzzing sound? The cunning Nicholas has built a vibration generator into his dirk. Pocket dildo. It looks as if he can now easily cut the rails into slices, like snacks. Don't eat those rails, bruh. I wonder what you can eat with pieces of rail. What? She's actually thinking about eating them! Bro, no! Probably royal vodka. Sophia giggled at her thought, resisting the urge to snuggle up on the cadet's back. It's pretty stupid to attack with a dirk against a blaster, but it's still better than bare hands and her nail clippers. For some reason, Sophia unbuttoned a secret pocket in the lush folds of her dress. She and Sonia had provided their entire wardrobe with similar pockets to store some little things. Manicure sets, handkerchiefs, or gloves. For some reason, they did not like to occupy their hands with uncomfortable reticules. Men are much luckier in that way. They can put anything in their pockets. All this thinking calmed Sophia down a little bit. Whoa. This music got really intense. But then, another little rustle came from a dark corner. An indistinct figure with a menacing outline appeared from the darkness. The girl clamped her mouth again, stifling a cry. The figure was armed and sneered, and Nicholas disappeared. She didn't even have the time to notice when and where he disappeared to. They're speaking Russian at me, bro. I think. A few more moments and she would not have been able to stand it. She would either have fainted or thrown herself into a panic. But then a second dark silhouette appeared nearby and swiftly swept out the legs of the first. The terrifying shadow of the local settled on the pavement with a wheeze. The savior turned out to be Nicholas. Sophia wanted to throw herself into his arms, but she couldn't do it. Her body was still fettered by fear, her thoughts spinning and humming. Where did he disappear to and why? Did he hide on purpose so he would catch the attacker by surprise? Maybe. You could have told me about your plan. It was terrible. My legs are trembling. We were out of time. Besides, our new acquaintance has a machete. He could hear us. But I ask you to forgive me for putting you at risk. This area used to be much quieter. Small-time gangsters, pickpockets, and other scum. But this one turned out to be some kind of maniac. He didn't even want to think what his necklace is made of. Sophia shuddered. Strangely, she hasn't felt sick yet. She'd never been in such danger before, and now this mysterious maniac's necklace. You know, there may have been too many of them lately. Ooh, maniacs, like this fellow. They flock to this area like flies to jam. What is it that draws them here? And you took me here? What's wrong with you? Right? This is either reckless courage or courageous dementia. Come on, honey. I walk here all the time. And apart from that, I'm an undergraduate cadet. Graduation is coming soon. Should I be afraid of this rabble? Maybe not, but you shouldn't bring other people into it. But it's not just rabble, it's a maniac. You yourself assured me of this literally a moment ago. A maniac is also just a human. Where do they come from? Is the rabble so different from the nobles that it generates such nightmarish creatures? You better talk to your neighbor, Donica, about this. Neighbor, you mean roommate? Why her? Heard she supports the Decemberists. She believes that the rabble and the nobles should have equal rights. After all, we are all humans. Well, if you judge it that way, then yes, I think I'm able to understand her point of view. I'm not. Just imagine the rabble being given the opportunity to study to become doctors, engineers, and being allowed to rule. What is it, like nature versus nurture argument or something like that? We're all human beings then. You're wrong. The nobility learns responsibility from a young age, absorbs nobility, and the ability to make well-informed and sound decisions from birth. Okay, yeah, this is just nature versus nurture argument. I would never entrust my treatment to a doctor from the slums, and a rocket designed by someone from the underclass. It might explode without even taking off. They don't know what real dignity is. Look how they live. This is a low breed. Oh, this guy seems like an asshole, I'm not gonna lie. Nicholas was still saying something, and Sophia was amazed how he seemed to have changed in appearance. He became less attractive, swaggering, squeamish, and arrogant. He had always ignored politics, but at the same time she respected people. She and her sister were poor after her parents passed away until they grew up and Sonia received an inheritance. They lived in an unpleasant place and communicated with all sorts of people. Sophia, of course, saw that there were differences between the nobility and the lower class, but to despise them so much for it? No. Nicholas was saying some seemingly correct things, but he was becoming more and more repulsive as a result. You're not Sonia, are you? What? How did you know? Why? Sophia fell silent. How did he realize that? Did she screw up on political views? But Sonia's never been into politics either. Will you stop pretending, honey? Tell me who you are. A spy disguised as Sonia? What nonsense. I'm her sister, Sophia. She's gone missing and she hasn't called me in 2 days. The constabularies refused to help me, so I decided to find her myself. Nicholas paused, puzzled. The night was getting weirder with each moment, and scarier. Sophia got scared again, this time because she could be taken for a spy and handed to the constabularies. Weirdly enough, Sonia never told me about you. I wonder why she was hiding you. Perhaps she was ashamed? The girl was literally twisted by the mere thought that her beloved sister might be ashamed of her. That simply could not be. Nah, I don't believe in that. You're too charming, childlike. Everyone likes that type of person. But she was protecting you, and I think I could guess from what exactly. Sophia instantly jumped, staring expressively at Nick. Did she finally have some luck? This man knows something, or at least suspects something. Sonia was being followed. I don't know by whom exactly. At first I thought of it just her mind playing tricks on her, but then I saw it for myself, and tried to guard her to the best of my ability. Unlike you, she takes risks. You wandered around some strange places by yourself. By the way, we are passing one now. I think it's worth checking it out. Sophia was glad that everything was going so well, despite the fact that the plan to pretend to be her sister had successfully failed. Wait here. I'll look around. This place can be dangerous. The cadet poked his head into the nearest door, then into another one, and then he disappeared into the depths of the frightened, gloomy corridor of the abandoned building. An indistinct noise was heard from the darkness. Sophia's heart froze, and then it sped up, pumping adrenaline into her blood. She began to look around, while trying to make as little noise as possible. The surrounding area looked quiet and deserted again. Oh, is she all alone now in an empty abandoned house in the middle of the slums? Okay, she needed to calm down, calm her breathing. She just needs to wait for Nicholas. Nothing will happen to him. Sophia quickly looked around and screamed. From the dark of the hallway, a man's figure was approaching her. Only it wasn't a man, because instead of a face, there was a terrible demonic mask. That doesn't look like a mask. It looks like his face got ripped off. Maybe he was one of those unrecognizable ones or whatever that they mentioned in the start. No, it was a human face, only without skin. Blood and mucus covered the occasionally throbbing naked muscles. Empty eye sockets stared straight into Sophia blindly. She tried to run away, but she couldn't move a finger. Why? She couldn't even scream anymore. She was completely numbed by horror. The man without a face was breathing noisily and whistling. Thick, dark blood was running down his clothes. He walked slowly, uncertainly, but he was still getting closer. Sophia felt that she was about to faint and was ready to accept her fate. But at that moment, Nicholas appeared again, like a swift shadow, and pushed the monster aside. Huh! The body of the man without a face was thrown out of the corridor. It fell over the railing and headed down, making a thumping noise below, somewhere in the basement. Sophia couldn't stand anymore. Her legs buckled, but Nicholas had already appeared next to her to keep her from falling. Sophia's consciousness was waning from the experience. She pushed the cadet away, rushed down the hall, ran through the nearest door, and locked it behind her. Sophia was about to collapse on the dirty floor, but when she looked up, it was Sonia, completely exhausted. She was half standing, half hanging by a rope around her wrists. There was the smell of ammonia in the room. How long has she been here for? The 2 whole days? It looks like she's alive. Unless she ain't. And what kind of dress was she wearing? It's too modest for Sonia, with the faded colors and without the ruffles or frills. But at the same time, too revealing below the knees. God, what am I even thinking about? Oh, why is she dressed like that, man? Just instantly critiques clothing instead of being like, oh my god, it's my sister. Just be like, oh my god, what's my sister wearing, bro? I know you was kidnapped, B, but bro. Do a little hand flick too, like everything. Oh god, what am I even thinking about? A thought flashed in Sophia's mind. He rushed to untie her sister. Her fingers slipped out over the knots. The rope wouldn't budge. Sonia moaned softly and opened her eyes a little bit. They had an unhealthy shine. It seemed like she could not focus her eyes on Sophia in any way. Sophia, what are you doing here? Leave at once. He'll come here soon. Leave me. Run. What are you talking about, sis? I won't leave you. Besides, I've been through so much. You owe me a whole bottle of sedative drops. Sedative drop? Bro, you owe me some sleeping pills, bitch. Sophia was a little distracted from her fears. She had more important tasks now, to save Sonia. It was as if their roles were reversed. Now she's the one protecting her sister. Is that my dress? Perfect. There's a secret pocket. Kill him. Kill! Sonia's eyes began to roll up again. Consciousness was leaving her. Probably talking about Nick. She had to hurry. Who knows how many more faceless monsters roam this house. Oh, so that's the depersonalization the coroner was talking about. It dawned on Sophia. Could such a terrible fate befall Sonia too? Yeah. No, she shouldn't think about it. She will save her. Nicholas is here somewhere. He should help. By the way, where is he? Only now did she realize that she was hearing blows against the door behind her. Someone was trying to break into the room. Is it really? Sophia stopped struggling with the knots and reached for the secret pocket. What did Sophia tell her? Kill him? Who? The faceless guy? Nope, Nick. The door finally gave way and was suddenly thrown back as the latch broke. Nicholas burst into the room. He grimaced, rubbing his bruised shoulder, and glowered at Sophia. What an obnoxious girl. Why did you lock yourself in? I almost broke my shoulder. At that moment, the faceless one appeared behind him. He snuffled and gurgled, sluggishly dragging his feet. The cadet squinted at his bloody mask and discontentedly pushed the faced one away with his hand. Kill him. Sonia wanted to warn her sister. She'd been here for 2 days and she knew something. Sophia felt the grip and raised the blaster. With a clang, the weapon's barrel enlarged, straightening out, and switched into a ready state. Man, that is futuristic as fork. The indicator flashed. The blaster was looking for a wireless power source to saturate the batteries. But the house was abandoned and de-energized. Sophia looked at the indicator. There was a single red line glowing. Just one shot left. How should she use it? Shoot Nicholas or shoot the faceless one? I'm gonna shoot Nicholas. Bam! I don't like that guy. He said poor people suck. Fuck him. The bright flash of a shot hit the cadet square between the eyes, and pieces of him scattered along the corridor. The faceless one staggered back, hit the wall, howling, and hobbled away somewhere. Sophia felt sick. She turned away and vomited a bile. She just killed a man. The man she initially liked. Sonia's boyfriend. That would explain why he just instantly knew it wasn't Sonia, though, since he probably was the one who tied her up there. But she told me to do it. She told me herself. It was him who imprisoned her in here, this place, hidden in the depths of the slums. Or maybe not. What if she misunderstood her sister's words? You did great, Sophia. You did it. Now you can get out of here alive. Nicholas turned out to be a maniac. Ooh, what happened to Nobles can't be maniacs? Fucking A, dude. Much to my misfortune, Now untie me and we'll go home. We have no idea how much I've missed. You have no idea how much I've missed you, and I'm hungry too. You probably haven't eaten in 2 days, so yeah, I believe it. Of course, Sonia, one moment. Hold on a little longer. The girl fussed, untying. Why not just grab the, like, cadet guy's, like, knife? The girl fussed, untying the cursed ropes. Sonia fell on her chest and sagged weakly, clutching her shoulders. God, she's heavy. Bro, this bitch fat. The sisters left the gloomy room and headed for the exit to the gloomy streets. Someone's terrible whistling breath could be heard behind them, but they didn't even look back. Sonia no longer favored her lush, bright outfits. Her new wardrobe consisted only of gray and nondescript clothes now. Sophia wore her sister's dresses instead. It felt as if their roles were switched from back when the quiet Sophia saved her lively sister. Now they lived together in Sophia's rented room. Sonia abandoned her studies, but in the evenings she preferred to take lonely walks. Sophia didn't like it very much. She wanted to be sure that nothing could endanger Sonia, but she put up with her absences after they had a serious talk with raised voices. The role of caring guardian was new to Sophia, and she gave in. Since that day, they talked to each other very little, and they tried not to talk about the abandoned house, and even report to the constabulary about what happened. Sonia assured her sister that this would ruin their lives, although it's not like they'd have a lively life now either. At nights, Sophia kept having nightmares. In the dreams, she'd been using a blaster to kill Nicholas. Then Sonia, then, for some reason, an old investigator who refused to help in her search. He was faceless. Sonia kept waking up from such nightmares, gave her water, and sang softly so that her sister would fall asleep again without bad dreams. It helped, but since then, Sophia tried to stay away from any weapons. Weapons now frightened Sophia very much. Even butter knives. Butter knife. She kept remembering the time Nick cut up the body of another maniac in the slums. How many monsters are there in this wonderful world? Amazing. One day, Sophia was checking her mail and found an envelope from the orphanage. This is Sonia's mole map. Only now, Sophia realized why the coroner told her to do that. The faceless victims of Nicholas. Sonia could have been one of them. She almost was. Sophia wanted to throw the letter away, but hesitated for a moment. She opened up the envelope. It can't be happening. What nonsense. Absurd. It's some kind of mistake. But... You found out after all. Oh my god, is she fake too? What the fuck? She's a homunculi. Sonia entered the room quietly. She had that skill as if something kind of Far East warrior or something inhumane. But I have you. You're my sister. Yes, I have you too, but no, I'm not your sister. You never had a sister. I showed up when your parents disappeared. Our parents? Your parents. Well, sorry. Sonia sighed and looked at Sophia sadly. There was pain in her eyes, but also concern, a desire to protect her from all adversity. She's always been like that. Always. Back then, I was not aware of myself yet. I was driven only by hunger, a thirst for blood. Your parents were found without faces. They were the first people That bitch ate that bitch's parents, bro. Sophia wanted to tell her sister to stop talking, but this wasn't her sister. Who was this? Whom has she lived with all of her life? Whom did she love and idolize? Still haven't figured out who I am. I just took your form, but not your place. Instead, I began to protect you. Oh. So they're twins, but they're not twins. Because the one's a homunculus? Well, that's so weird, dude. I felt that I was doing something wrong, but by pretending to be human, I also got human feelings. And then I realized that I feel sorry for you. I was sorry I left you an orphan, and I tried to replace those who I became your family. I think I was doing pretty well. As for my thirst, my hunger, I found a way around it. I looked for the worst representatives of the human race. They became my prey. Yes, I'm different. I'm not human. I can't survive without these victims, but I don't want to do any harm. I used my curse for good. I became the city's cleaner. I provoked maniacs, lure them into the dark alleys, and then deal with them. I do it better than the constable. Believe me, I'm doing good for this world. That's why she hung around, like, slums and, like, fucked up dangerous places. Sophia was crying. Tears rolled down her cheeks, leaving wet tracks in her makeup. She brushed them off with an emblem embroidered family handkerchief. But they kept appearing again. That explains the, like, little subtle, like, mentioning of homunculi now and then. That kind of makes sense. Like, it seemed pointless to even mention. But, now I see why they mentioned it. Why are you so quiet? It's my fault. Yes. But I've redeemed myself. I've become good, haven't I? Will you accept me the way I am? Sis, please answer me. Sonia was wiping her tears with the handkerchief, and the emblem kept flashing in front of her. The symbol of her parents. Parents who no longer existed. Yeah, because that bitch ripped their face off. Say something, please. We grew up together. You taught me how to be human. I love you. Sonia took a step towards Sophia and timidly raised her arms, as if she wanted to hug her sister, but did not dare. She was only able to look pleadingly into her tear-stained eyes. I accept you. Sophia stepped towards her sister and hugged her. She's not human? Well then so be it. She's her only family. Sonia literally raised her and saved her from many troubles. She's good. Sonia was crying too. Two girls, a human and a creature of an unknown species, were crying, hugging each other, despite everything. They remained close. And the two of them had no one else in the whole wide world. They are different, but they're so similar. They look the same, so yeah, they're pretty similar. You taught me to be human. Well, one has a pointier chin than the other one. But other than that, they look the same. Also, their hair is slightly different yellow, but it's not really that big of a detail. After all, Sonia knew what it meant to be family. Learn to feel guilt and love. Does it really matter who she is or where she comes from? She is all that Sophia has, the only one. A rocket engine roared outside the window, probably a regular planet ship taking rich tourists to a Martian resort or a research team on its way to the system boundary. Maybe that's where Sonia came from? However, what difference does it make? She's here right now. She's almost become human. Almost human. Doesn't matter, she's human. As long as she don't eat, look, the way I see it, as long as she just keeps eating bad people, it's all good, bro. I mean, that's sort of like a moral, like, that's like a really moral gray area, but fuck it, right? She's trying. Sophia was not interested in the criminal chronicle, but the headlines were large and flashed on every second street. The faceless return. People keep disappearing in the slums. The devourer of faces is back. But why? Sonia promised to hunt less often. Does this mean that Sophia was mistaken about believing her sister? Did she get a taste for blood, or did someone else show up? Perhaps Sonia's not the only one. Then she remembered Nicholas with his amazing ability to move swiftly and silently, as if he were not human at all. Evening was approaching. Confused and upset, Sophia wandered through the streets. Didn't even notice when Reverie took her back to the slums. Oh. When she came to that abandoned building, it turned out that in the yard there was piles of, what was that? Human bodies? Sophia started shaking. She couldn't believe Sonia was up to her old tricks again. Well, yes. Why does she need a new hideout if there's an old one that already proved to be good? Oh, there's that one girl. There's the best friend girl. Oop, rip. Get wrecked. A faceless one appeared out of the darkness. No. Not the one from before. Sophia put her hands over her mouth. It was Hanukkah. Trousers, hairstyle, and now a bloody mask instead of a face. Hanukkah took a few steps. Her legs buckled. She fell to the pavement, not far from the trembling Sophia. She overcame herself and looked closer. She wanted to check to see if the girl was still alive, but she couldn't bring herself to touch the disfigured body. Then she turned back to the bodies in the courtyard. She noticed that they were moving. Sophia's face turned pale. No, the corpses were not going to get up. Contortions took place under their clothes. At some point, the clothes began to tear apart along the dead flesh. From under it, some creatures appeared, stained with black blood. They seemed to lift their little noses, listening. The bodies are like moving in the background now. The girl couldn't stand the sight and sobbed in horror. The disgusting creatures rushed towards Sophia at once. She tried to run, but her legs didn't obey her. She stumbled and fell off the pavement. The bloody creatures covered her like a wave. I was driven only by hunger, a thirst for blood. Sophia remembered her sister's words. Now she seemed to be driven by her reproduction instinct. I think Sophia got ate by the little homunculi thingies. Hundreds of tentacles dug into her skin. Burned with stomach acid, she screamed, but the painful shock immediately, mercifully, took away her consciousness. And then the screams stopped. Ending 3. Scary. Okay, so apparently, whether or not that was her sister, more of those things were there. And they were still eating people, which means that it could be an endless number of people who could actually be those monsters and be eating other people. Which is weird. That just means the world is pretty much going to end. So, R.I.P. the world. Now, let's see what happens if we push Sonia away in this situation. Sophia squeezed the handkerchief in her fist and pushed her ex-sister away with both of her hands. Her family died. This thing killed her parents, and now it's pretending to be her sister. Sophia got out of the house and ran until she couldn't anymore. When she came back to her senses, she was near the constabulary. She must answer for her crimes. And me too. Sophia took a determined step towards the entrance. She'll tell them everything. She'll tell them about her inhumane sister and her killing Nicholas. Everything. Sophia did not feel the injection, but when the medicine began to take effect, she began to recover. Okay. Strange. Usually it was the opposite. Dude, this story is just full of weird twists, left and right, bro. Usually it was the opposite. The drug to help her forget. Something was wrong. Regarding the matter, I must tell you something. Are you able to understand me yet? Sophia nodded. Yes, she understood the woman. She even remembered that this was her attending physician. She helped to forget about what happened to her. When? Doesn't matter. It was all hallucinations. She's sick. This was very clearly explained to her by authoritative experts in the field of psychiatry. There are no such things. He's busy now, searching for the creature. That's why I'm just going to tell you everything he told me, and that would discharge you from the hospital. What is she talking about? Seems that she missed something. And what creature are they talking about? Is she delirious again? Then she needs to call a doctor. The doctor is already here. How fast? Oh, the staff were injured, but there were numerous casualties among the prisoners. Moreover, on camera, we were able to catch the moment. Sonia. What? Sonia? Is she alive? Why doesn't she visit me then? Her sick sister. What the fuck? Did she get knocked out, or did she just randomly wake up? Is this like it was all a dream ending, or is this gonna be like I'm a little confused. Oh yeah, Sonia doesn't exist, like Nicholas, and you were absolutely right. Oh, it's so awful I can hardly talk about it. I can't imagine it, being without a face and without eyes. The investigator assured us that that all constabulary forces and military units have been mobilized to capture and destroy this mysterious creature. It'll be over soon, and I, on behalf of all the doctors who confirmed your diagnosis, we offer you our deepest apologies. In order to somehow compensate for your suffering, we alienated our current grants and bonuses in your favor. What? We understand that it's... What grants? Why do I need them? What happened to Sonia? She ran away. But she exists? What have these doctors been drugging me with? It's so hard to think. Although, why do I need to think about that? It's so much more pleasant to live without thoughts. I need to stop thinking. Nicholas doesn't exist. Only two. Me too. There is no me. You alright? You understand me? Why didn't the stimulants work? Hey, what? The doctor's voice was receding, thinning, turning into a mirage, just like Sophia. Her mind was at peace. Nothing else could hurt her, because there was nothing. Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm confused if that was... Did she get knocked out and drugged and brought there? Or was she just there the whole time and having hallucinations that turned out to be real? And then she just went into, like, mental breakdown state? And, like... Huh? I'm very confused by that ending. Okay, so the last two endings were 2 and 3. Both of those were gotten by shooting Nicholas. But what if we let Nicholas live? What if Nicholas was actually the good guy, even though he gave me bad vibes the whole time? He only gave me bad vibes because he's a fucking asshole, but maybe he was actually the good guy the whole time. Who knows? Maybe he was right about his nature versus nurture aspect. Shoot the faceless one. The bright flash of a shot hit the faceless man square between the eyes, and pieces of him scattered along the corridor. Sophia felt sick, and she turned away and vomited up bile. Yeah, she hadn't eaten in a couple of days. Nicholas. Yeah, she hadn't eaten in a couple of days. Nicholas, with his trademark swift shadow move, appeared close and picked up the blaster she dropped on the floor. No charge left at all? Well, that's wonderful. Now no one will interfere with us. Now, Cookie. But that amazing shot. You blowing your investigator's head off was simply amazing. What investigator? You know the one you went to this morning. The old man's conscience tortured him, so he decided to help you. He was truly a pro to track this place down so easily. By evening, he'd already found me. I had to lure him here and take his eyes and nose away from him just so he'd stop sniffing around here. Okay, Nicholas is one of those monsters. Okay. Sophia squeezed her eyes shut. What terrible things this man says. That's why she liked him so much. Their first meeting. No, it can't be. Open your eyes, Cookie. You haven't seen anything yet. Leave her alone, monster. Let her go. She's not... A monster? Quiet. Rest a bit, Sonia. Don't think I've forgotten about you. I alone am enough for this planet. But your sweet little sister comes first. Oh, dude, he was making the flushed emoji face. He's just over there making the flushed emoji face. He's like fucking... Ooh, a monster. Senpai. Sonia hanged her head on her lap. Sophia stepped back until her back hit the wall. That's it. There's nowhere else to run. This terrible man had lured her into a trap, but why? Right. You must be wondering why I lured you here, with some adventures along the way. It's pretty simple. I assure you, young girls are wonderfully delicious when they're thoroughly scared. It's just a nightmare, a bad dream and nothing more. I'm dreaming. Sophia tried to console herself, but she couldn't close her eyes anymore. Nick caught her eyes and stood beside her. And now you're gonna get a little more scared, okay? Oh, shit! Ooh, alright. He's going full hentai mode on me. His body suddenly started moving weirdly under his clothes. Is that what her sister is, too? Began to swell, and the fabric burst and flew apart into pieces. The skin was also gone from Nicholas's body. Sophia's breathing stopped along with her heartbeat. She watched as the man turned into some kind of creature consisting of a bundle of tentacles. The abomination was moving and approaching her. Oh, I think when we killed Nicholas in the other ending, he reverted back into his, like, base form or something and started eating people. I think that's what that was. And then all the worms needed a feed to turn back into him or something. I think that might have been what it was. Maybe. I'm just theory crafting here. The abomination was moving and approaching her, and her legs were numb. The world went dark before her eyes. Sweet. She remembered it, as sticky tentacles wrapped around her body. Felt as if she was being like, oh, no, no, bad video game. The caustic mucus, causing unimaginable pain, began to corrode her skin. She was finally able to scream, but it was too late. Ending 1, too late. So I'm a little confused by all those endings. I went back through it just to make sure I didn't miss something, and I didn't. But there wasn't any good endings in that story, it feels like. It feels like they were all bad endings. So there was definitely only 3 endings that I could find. If I missed something, like, I'm not sure. But the only ending that seemed even remotely good was ending number 2. Even though, like, she went into, like, a weird mental comatose state. Because the other 2 endings, I died a gruesome, horrible death to tentacle worm monsters. And then ending 2, I just, like, lived, and Sonia was found and was taken care of and, like, gotten rid of or whatever. And so is, like, Nicholas in that case, I'm assuming. I don't really know. So I guess that's it for that one. That one, it definitely had, I didn't fully see that coming. I knew Nicholas was an asshole pretty much right away. I didn't like him right away. And then I had like a second thought about him, I guess, when I didn't shoot him, thinking maybe he was a good guy since the other 2 endings were bad, but no, he was bad too. The sister wasn't bad, but the sister wasn't actually in any of the actual endings. I don't know, I'm confused by it. I don't know what to make of this whole thing. I really feel like I'm missing something, but at the same time, like, everything could just be bad. I don't know. I could have a bit of a... I don't really have a quib to say about being a virgin this time, because that doesn't really make sense. Although, no, because both Sonia and Nicholas were both monsters, and Nicholas just tried to swoon Sonia so that he could kill her, so that he could be the only monster. So, I mean, I guess even monsters need to stay virgins, boys. There we go. There we go, mystery solved. I'll see you guys for the next one.